Spotify has always been known as a music company, but a few years ago, it really made a big bet on podcasts. And now the next bet for the company is audiobooks. In a lot of ways, music and audiobooks work a lot better together than podcasts because podcasts don't typically get monetized in the same way as music. They aren't a natural subscription product the way that music is. So bundling podcasts with music doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. But audiobooks, on the other hand, typically is a similar business model to music, and as a result makes for a natural bundle for Spotify. So the company rolled that out late in 2023, said they were going to include some audiobooks with premium subscriptions, at least in the US and a couple other countries. And it looks like that's going to be expanding in 2024. And one of the interesting takeaways from the recent first quarter 2024 conference call was that audiobooks are probably something that's going to expand the pie for both Spotify and for authors. One of the things technology and platform companies like this can do is they can actually make the business bigger and better for everybody. If you look at the music business right now, the music business is bigger today than it was when CDs were extremely popular. So artists as a whole are making more money. Could that be the case in the books business? I think that's worth considering as something like audiobooks becomes more and more common. So that's what I'm going to dig into today and kind of give an idea of where Spotify is going in this business. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. So let's go to exactly what they announced late last year. This is the announcement from Spotify, the original announcement, where they said they're going to be including 150,000 audiobooks in with premium subscriptions. And what they did is they said they're going to give 15 hours of listening per month for users who are on premium individual, family, and duo accounts. So 15 hours. If you're somebody who listens to a lot of podcasts like I do, or potentially a lot of audiobooks, that's actually not that much time. It's only about 30 minutes a day. But it's a nice way to start including this and see if this is something that customers are interested in. That's why the recent news and reporting that Spotify is going to change the pricing again. Now, this is being framed as a price increase, but what it really is, it's giving more clarity around the audiobooks piece of the subscription, saying you can have a music-only subscription for this price, but if you want to bundle in audiobooks, it's going to be an additional $1 or $2 every month instead of just being a free inclusion. So this is the way that bundles work. You're adding something for everybody, and maybe you get more value from the music side of things, but maybe your spouse gets more value from audiobooks. And as a whole, it makes sense for everybody to sign up for the larger bundle subscription. And that's, I think, really the ultimate goal for Spotify, is to be able to include music, audiobooks, maybe educational materials, maybe premium podcasts, all under one subscription umbrella. It gives them much more control over the ecosystem, adds more value to customers, and it grows the pie for everybody. That's really the way you have to think about all of these products, is growing the pie for everybody. And this is where an interesting quote came out of the recent conference call. CEO Daniel Ek said that 25% of our base is now using audiobooks, and they're seeing 2.5 hours of incremental usage on the audiobook side. So that is usage that didn't exist before, incremental usage. So they're spending more time on the Spotify platform. That means there's value being added. That means that they can potentially raise prices. That means that bundles are working. And this is really the bullish sign for Spotify and the way that the company could change the way we think about reading and audiobooks. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. Just like what happened in music, when you get to the point where you actually build a new business model, there can be a lot of headwinds along the way. A lot of people who don't necessarily want to have buy-in to that kind of business model. Something like audiobooks has often been sold as a single device. So you pay, let's say $9.99 for a single audiobook. You get to listen to that as many times as you want, but you only have access to that one book. So would you maybe listen to more audiobooks if you had access for, let's say, $10 a month? Would you maybe listen to 2 books a month? And what we have seen in the music business is the answer to that is yes. People are willing to pay money and actually pay more money overall if they just get access to the entire library. So the playbook that Spotify used in the music business is now going to be replicated in the audiobooks business. And what's going to be interesting to see is as you have these two markets emerging, can you combine them together into one subscription? That's what Spotify is trying to do. And it looks like later on this year, they're probably going to split those a little bit and say, hey, you can pay this much for just music, you can pay this much for just audiobooks, or you can have both of them together for one price. Again, the idea overall is to grow the pie, increase the amount of revenue that's coming into the entire ecosystem. Then the argument is just, how do we split up that money? And that is something that Spotify has always dealt with its negotiation with record labels. But that's a great problem to have, especially if you're in the audiobook business. This is incremental listening. This is incremental new revenue. And I know for me, this is content that I would not be listening to or reading otherwise. I listen to a lot of podcasts because it's a way to passively consume content while I'm taking a walk, while I'm on an airplane. And audiobooks has become the same thing. I can listen to a book while I'm walking the dog. That is a phenomenal use case, and actually increases the number of people who are going to be given access to content. So I think this is a great playbook for Spotify. The other thing that is a potential benefit for them is you get more access to content that would make a lot of sense in the advertising network. If there's an incremental 2.5 hours per month of usage, that's 2.5 hours that could be filled with ad time. So especially on the ad-supported tier, do we start seeing some audiobooks included on the ad-supported tier? And that increases the inventory for their advertising business. Long term, I think if this is going to be a home run stock, that is the business that really needs to improve quickly for Spotify. And having content people are actually listening to and engaged in is the first step. They need to have the users, so their user number growth has been phenomenal. They need to have hours of entertainment, hours of listening. That seems to be moving in the right direction. The next step is actually monetizing that through advertising. So building those back-end platforms and actually showing that users are engaged in what you're actually doing. And so that's the next step for Spotify. And I think that's the step that we're going to see over the next few years, is potentially grow that advertising business more like 20 to 25% per year. And if they can do that, this will be a much more profitable company. So don't sleep on the impact that audiobooks are going to have on Spotify, because we have seen this playbook before. The company has done this with music. Now they're doing effectively the same thing with audiobooks. The next step will be, can you bring another vertical into that fold? Does podcasts make sense on the premium side of the business? I don't know that it necessarily does. It definitely brings listeners to the advertising business. So all three of those work together on the advertising side, but it's generally a slightly different business model in the podcast business. So I think actually audiobooks from a financial perspective could have a much bigger impact on Spotify than podcasts have over the last few years. A very interesting development, and I think this is really evolving quickly. They've even talked about adding products like education tools and videos. That may be a few years down the road, but another thing that could potentially make sense in that premium subscription model. But what do you think about audiobooks and Spotify's clear strategic move to include this in more and more subscriptions? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.